We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good buddy of ours, Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the show/podcast of Rob's Best Bets. We have to chat it up with him about what we've seen here in the first nearly 2 months out of the season. We've been talking about this. Are there a few American League teams that might be doing for some positivity? We'll break down what is a very full card on this Baseball Monday as well. And then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, largely on the me does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we did have ourselves a fun day of baseball on Sunday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
What games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about? Here is the rowdy recap.
The Tampa Bay Rays continue to be amazing out there in the American League. They have the best record out there in the league, 6-3. They take down the Miami Marlins' Erie Perez. An Erie start here, 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, gives up a pair of bombs as Yandy Diaz, 7th home run season, Junior Caminero, his 12th. From there, Tyler Phillips gives up 1 run in 2 innings. John King was the king of giving you a scoreless inning, but the Kings on this day were the Rays as Drew Rasmussen, 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Kevin Kelly, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Garrett Clevenger, he gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Ian Seymour, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Brian Baker, a scoreless inning to be able to polish that one off. The Atlanta Braves continue to keep things rocking and rolling, 8-1. They absolutely roll the Boston Red Sox as Brian Bayo, 7 runs allowed in 5 innings, including a pair of bombs as Mikey Stremski, 2nd home run of the season, and then Austin Riley, his 7th. Grant Holmes, great start out of him, 6 shutout innings. From there, Reynaldo Lopez, 2 scoreless innings. Tyler Kinley gives up a run in an inning. Way too little, way too late for the Red Sox. So we did throw Ryan Watson for 3 innings, only gave up 1 run, but by then the damage had very much been done. How about the Cleveland Guardians doing some damage? 10-3. They're able to take down the Cincinnati Reds as for the Reds, Brady Singer was singing the blues. 3 home runs, 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, and then every single bullpen piece would give up approximately 1 home run. Brock and Roll Burke gives up a home run in his inning of work. TJ Antone gives up a home run, a solo shot, and 2 runs in total over the course of his inning of work. And then Connor Phelps gives up 2 runs in 2 innings as going deep, he had Jose Ramirez get his 7th home run season, Brian Rocchio his 4th, Anel Martinez his 9th, Chase Salauter his 7th, and then Kyle Manzardo twice, 3rd and 4th home runs of the season. Gavin Williams had it going on here, 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Does give up a home run to Ellie De La Cruz, 11th home run season, but from there to Miller Herron, a scoreless inning. Cody Ewer, he gives up 1 run over the course of 2 innings, but Guardians 26-22, one of the few teams above 500 out there in the American League. In the American League, the Rangers are looking to claw their way back to 500. They take down the Houston Astros by a count of 8-0. Astros now 10 games below 500 as Peter Lambert, 5 runs allowed in 6 innings, gives up a home run here to Jake Berger, 8th home run season, then Kyle Higashioka. Higgy, can't you see? That's his 2nd home run for all of us as he goes deep off of Cody Bolton, who gives up 3 runs over the course of 3 innings. Nathan Eovaldi was tremendous, 7 shutout innings, and then you were able to get 2 shutout from the bullpen in Gavin Collier as well. So Astros things are on the fritz there, and looks like Jose Altuve is on the injury list, so it's not great to say the least. Not great for the Washington Nationals on Sunday either. They fall to the Baltimore Orioles, this by a count of 7-3. For Baltimore, you had Brandon Young give up 2 runs in 3 2/3 innings, did give up a home run as it was home run number 5 of the season for Jacob Young. From there, the bullpen was solid. Tyler Wells, 1 run allowed over the course of 2 innings. You had Anthony Nunez give you 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Yanier Cano, Rico Garcia, don't you know both of those guys gave you a shutout inning. And for Miles Michaelis, pair of home runs allowed, 4 runs in total over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Colton Cowser, first of the campaign. Kobe Mayo is 5th, and then the opener, Richard Dickey Lovelady, gives one up to Gunnar Henderson. 10th home run season, gave up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. From there, Brad Lord, a shutout inning. Paxton Schultz gives up a run in an inning, but for the Nationals, back below 500 for them. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, they did what very few teams have been able to do. Get to Paul Skeens. 6-0. They shut out the Pirates. Skeens gives up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings. Skeens was on an almighty run. He had given up, I believe, 3 earned runs over his last 5 starts. So a feat here by the Phillies, who continue to be carried by Bryce Harper along with Kyle Schwarber. For Harper, 12th home run of the season. Then Bryson Stott, great Stott. He was able to go deep off of Dennis Santana. 4th home run of the campaign. Santana gives up that home run. It is inning of work. Isaac Manson, Yohan Ramirez, Justin Lawrence all lend a scoreless inning. And how about Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler? He was Whelan. He was dealing for his 7 shutout innings. Jonathan Bull and Tanner Banks from there, both able to supply a scoreless inning. The Minnesota Twins squeak out a win against the Milwaukee Brewers. This by a count of 5-4. Robert Gasser gets a start here. Wasn't too long for this game for the Brewers. 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 4 innings from their Grant Anderson. Gives up a solo home run in 1 2/3 innings as Ryan Jeffers, 7th home run on the campaign. D.L. turned it up all. 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Jake Woodford, gives up a run in his inning of work. For Bailey Ober, he does give up 3 in 5 innings, and he was taken deep twice. Christian Yelich, welcome back. 2nd home run of the season, and then Garrett Mitchell also get his 2nd of the year from there. Anthony Banda, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Same goes for Taylor Rogers, and you had a scoreless inning out of one Mr. Andrew Morris. There was a run given up in an inning by Luis Garcia in the 9th, but Sully will polish it off and get the save, and Justin Topa, pair of outside the bullpen as well. For the New York Yankees, they upchucked defeat from the jaws of victory. The Mets put up a 3 spot in the 9th inning to be able to force extras, and they get the 7-6 win, as you had the young gun making his 3rd career start, and Elmer Rodriguez go just 4 1/3 innings. Only gives up 1 run along the way. From there, Ryan Yarbrough, 2 runs given up in his inning of work. Jake Bird gives the bird with a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Camilo Duvall, Fernando Cruz, both on his scoreless inning, and then David Bednar. He poops a Bednar in the 9th inning. He gives up a home run to Tyrone Taylor. That was a 2-out home run, his 3rd of the campaign, and that forced extras. And then Tim Hill, he gives up the walk-off winner. As for the Mets, Carson Benjay being able to ground into a fielder's choice to end the game, and Freddie Peralta, 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, does give up a home run to Ben Rice, 15th home run of the season. Sean Manaea in super long relief, 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 4 innings. Devin Williams, a shutout 10th inning against his former team, and he gets the win in this one. And being able to get the W, the Kansas City Royals 2-0. They take down the St. Louis Cardinals. For the Royals, Stephen Kolek, very good in this game. 6 1/3 inning scoreless. Daniel Lynch from there, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Lucas Ursache scoreless inning, and Andre 3000 Palante, he was pretty solid. He certainly didn't give up 3,000 runs. 6 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned. Salvador Perez does take him deep. 7th home run on the campaign. From there, Matt Savanson, he gives you a shutout inning. You had Justin Brule give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and Matt Pushard, great name, he pushed for a scoreless inning, but nothing doing for the Cardinals on this day as they leave 7 men on base. A lot doing for these guys, though. The Arizona Diamondbacks, 8-6. They're able to take down the Colorado Rockies. As for Michael Soroka, solid start here. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Bullpen made things interesting. Brandon Pfaadt, he battled through a 3rd of an inning, but he gave up 4 runs, all of which were earned. But Juan Murillo, a shutout inning. Ryan Thompson and Taylor Clark, they combined for 3 outside the bullpen scoreless. Paul Sewald, a scoreless 9th to be able to get the save. And for the Diamondbacks, you had Lourdes Gurriel finally get his 1st home run on the campaign. That comes out from Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen gives up a home run to Corbin Carroll as well. He gets his 6th home run on the campaign. A little bit later on, he would get home run number 7 of the season. That comes off of Blas Costanzo. Hopefully I got that correct. Who he gives up that home run in 2 1/3 innings. For Lorenzen, he continues to be terrible at home. 6 runs earned, 7 runs in total in 4 2/3 innings. And then Seth Alvarez and Victor Vodnik, they both give you a scoreless inning, but by then, way too little, way too late. A game with a ton of offense was out there in Chicago, as the Southsiders, they get the job done against the Chicago Cubs. 9-8 the final is. For the Cubs, they had full control of this game. They let go of it, and then they put up a 3 spot in the 9th inning to be able to force extras, and then they lose the game in the 10th inning, as Colin Ray said boo to giving up 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings. From there, Jacob Webb, Hoby Milner, they both give you 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Phil Matone gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He continues to be terrible. Taken deep in this game by Tristan Peters, his 1st home run on the campaign, and then will walk off the game. Edgar Quiero, his 1st home run of the season off of Ryan Rolson, gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in that 10th inning in walk-off fashion, and Daniel Palencia, a shutout inning out of him, and Eric Fetty got whopped. 3 innings pitched, 4 runs, all of which were earned, taken deep in this game by Michael Busch, 4th home run of the season. Then Michael Conforto, he forced extras with his 3rd home run of the season off of Sir Anthony Dominguez, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up in that 9th by Dominguez. Prior to that, Sean Newcomb, Grant Taylor, both give you 2 shutout innings. Ryan Hudson, a scoreless inning as well. And then you did have 1 earned run given up by Tyler Davis in the 10th. But for the White Sox, out 24-22, one of the few teams above 500 out there in the American League. So, yay, verily there. And yay verily to a pair of 10-1 games out there in the state of California. For the Angels, they lose by kind of 10-1 to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Grayson Rodriguez with his Angels debut, and he looked like an Angels pitcher. 7 runs given up in 3 2/3 innings. Jose Fermin and out of the bullpen squirrels. Mitch Ferris, 2 shutout innings. Kirby Yates, he goes for a scoreless inning, and then he had 3 runs given up in 2 innings by Ryan Johnson. And Roki Sasaki, who's been absolutely terrible thus far this season, 1 run allowed in 7 innings. So the Angels were a get-right spot from Alex Vesia, a shutout inning, and Chase McDermott, he comes out of the bullpen, and he was able to give you a shutout inning, and then it was 10-1. The Giants were able to take down the Athletics, as for the Giants, it's been a rough season for them at the plate, but hey, Harrison Bader gets his 4th home run of the season, and Luis Rise, his 2nd for Rise, goes off of Jeffrey Springs, who, he was fine in this game. 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 6 innings, and then the bullpen happened as Justin Sterner shutout inning. He had 5 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up by Luis Medina. He didn't get a single out. And then Jose Suarez inherited some of those runners. He gives up 3 runs in his inning of work, including that home run to Bader. From there, you had to have position player Carlos Cortez come in and give you a shutout inning. Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser, did not pitch like Doogie. Now, gives up 5 walks and 4 hits in 6 innings, but only allows 1 run. From there, Sam Entages, Keaton Wynn, Yul Piguero all give you a scoreless inning. The Blue Jays, they go on the road. They get the job done against the Detroit Tigers. This by a count of 4-1. As for Kevin Gausman, great start here, 6 shutout innings. From there, Yariel Rodriguez gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings. Joe Mantiply, Bear outside the bullpen scoreless, and then you had Tyler Rogers give you a shutout inning for the save, and Captain Jack Flaherty continues to be the captain of the SS, giving up runs. 4 runs allowed in 6 innings. He was taken deep by Vlad Jr., just his 3rd home run of the season, but overshadowed by the fact that Fernando Tatis Jr. has as many home runs as myself. Emmanuel De Jesus, Birch Smith, they combined for 3 shutout innings from there, but with the Tigers, not a lot doing at the plate for them. And then in Sunday Night Baseball, on Sunday Night Baseball, the San Diego Padres, well, they slammed the Seattle Mariners 8-3, the final in this one. Gavin Sheets, holy Sheets, he was able to get a pair of home runs off of George Kirby. For Kirby, 5 2/3 innings, gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned. And Lucas Giolito, in his debut for the San Diego Padres, gives up 3 runs on 1 hit. Very strange there, but that said, pretty effective on that front. Yuki Matsui from there, 2 shutout innings. Brad Dudley Rodriguez, he was able to give you a solid 8th and 9th inning to be able to polish it off. And then Cooper Criswell gives up a run in a 1/3 of an inning. Alex Hoppe, not so happy about the fact they gave up a run in 1 2/3 innings. He were able to get 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels out of Domingo Gonzalez to be able to polish that one off. But for the Padres now, 10 games above 500, and if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, still has been an overwhelming season, but we've seen a nice run from unders recently. The over rate is about 50.8%, 345 overs, 333 unders, and if math serves me correct, 17 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line hitting at about 55.7%, 379 and 302 on the money line, and over the last 7 days, favorites having a little bit of a rough go of it, 48 and 41 on the money line, just a hair below 54.5% there. Meanwhile, the over rate a little bit over 50.5%, 45 overs, 43 unders, and I believe that we have had 4 pushes along the way as well. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat with our good friend Rob Donaldson, does such great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets and Underdog Fantasy. He joins me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard. He's doing such a great job looking at this great game of baseball over at Underdog Fantasy, along with his show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. I know that he's doing an incredible job looking at this game in so many different capacities. He's doing a great job on so many fronts, whether that be football, college basketball, you name it, he does it. This time of year, he dominates the diamond, and you're able to follow him I'm on the old Twitter/X at RobDFB altogether. And Rob, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. It's always a great time talking ball with you. And we've had a very, very interesting season play out already. And, we're only sitting here in mid-May, and we can generally kind of make that statement and have it be accurate. So it's been really fun, and we have a long ways to go, my friend.
Yes, we certainly do. And I know that there's a lot of teams that you don't want to jump to conclusions on, but just how bad is this LA Angels team? I tweeted this out on Sunday. Right now, they're on pace for 55 wins. If you gave me a live win total of 55.5, if I had to go over or under on it, I personally would go under. Not sure how you look at things, but I feel like your team's going the wrong way down a one-way street when you have Alek Manoah coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, we've kind of made this a topic in like our after the show sort of conversations over the last couple weeks where the Angels just kind of feel like the retirement home for pitchers who were never really good at their previous stop. I mean, every single year they have these reclamation projects that never reclamate or whatever the word that you apply to that is. And it's just every single time. The Angels, not for their lack of trying. I mean, they try to go out and sign these big free agent contracts. They make moves at the deadline, even when they probably shouldn't. And, they end up with like an Anthony Rendon. So it's just one of those things where the Angels as a franchise or an organization just fail at every single step of the way. And they've had one of the best players of the past 2 decades in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. This is just par for the course. And unfortunately, it kind of feels like it's hitting an ultimate rock bottom.
Oh, man. I mean, this is just rough to say the least. And hey, on Monday, the Athletics come to town and they have a promising guy in Walber Urena going on the mound. They're getting about plus 110, plus 115, totals 8.5 to 9 with JT Ginn going for the Athletics. How do you look at a game like this where the Athletics are a short road favorite? And as we know with the Athletics, they've been different with regards to their offense when they've been away from home rather than at home. So I do think that this might be a little bit of a tricky spot for the Athletics.
Yeah, and ultimately for the A's, it's been the pitching that's let down this team in spades. Whether it's, sometimes they have the rotation that on any given day can go out there, pitch 5 or 6 strong with only 3 or 4 earned runs. And in my opinion, that's giving your team a chance. And I think when we're talking about the A's offense also factoring in that equation, that's why they're sitting at, a tick below or kind of even at 23 and 23, 500 right now, because the pitching has done just enough. But when this team falls, it falls because the bullpen gives up 8 runs. And so I think if the Angels, the losers of 6 straight, an offense that's been very, very kind of all over the place in regards to scoring, if they are going to get right, it can potentially come against a team like the A's with JT Ginn on the bump, who's an inexperienced pitcher who's run into some issues at times. And on the other side with Walber Urena, you kind of raise the point of, hey, this is one of the few guys in this Angels rotation who might be able to go out there and carve out some quality innings. If you do want to take a little bit of a skid buster, I feel like it probably is here, but it's hard to get in bed with the A's right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, certainly. You talk about a skid buster. Well, right now the Angels, they are a skid mark on the underpants of baseball. It's been really, really rough to say the least. And yes, had to throw there the dodgeball line, as we do have our good friend Rob Donaldson. Does such great work with the show/podcast. Rob's best bets. Joined me on the Baseball Betting Show. And if I remember correctly, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the fact that the American League has had a lot of struggling teams, and we were trying to discuss who might be able to bounce back. And I'll ask you the exact same thing, because it feels like a lot of the teams, they just still have not bounced back. Guardians are hovering right around 500. The A's are right around 500. Rays and Yankees are well above 500. And right now, that's about it for the American League. Is there any teams that you think might be able to rise up? Because it has been brutal out there for so many of those teams.
When you're talking about, 4th and 5th place in the American League being occupied by the Chicago White Sox and the Oakland Athletics or the Sacramento A's, you're in a spot that you probably didn't expect to be in mid-May here. I think that's safe to say. And also, when you're factoring that in and kind of looking at it from the larger macro standpoint, it does open the door for a lot of these teams that are just barely under 500, and there's a lot of them that have the upside in the lineups in particular, because listen, if these teams are in contention for their divisions, for their wild cards, which they will be just because there has to be somebody in those slots, there is going to be a little bit of aggressiveness to pick up players at the deadline when that comes into fold. And the easiest players to acquire, because they have to move off of bad teams, are bullpen pieces and back-end rotation arms, which is going to cure a lot of the woes of a lot of these teams. Now, the Rangers in particular are the team that I kind of circle because that lineup has been dreadful. And they're going to be one of the few teams that in the American League, when you're talking about a potential contender, is going to be looking for lineup pieces because their bullpen, their rotation has been just fine, if not, superb. And so from that standpoint, I think the Rangers are kind of finding this weird market inefficiency where a lot of teams are not shopping for what they need to shop for. And whether that happens now or closer to the deadline, if they are competitive, I do tend to think the Rangers are the team to kind of watch as a team that could challenge the top three in the American League at some point down the line.
Yep, I'm right there with you. If the Rangers can get a modicum of offense, they've got themselves a shot. They're right now number one in terms of bullpen ERA. They've got some great starters, and boy, nobody is hitting for this team right now, and that makes it interesting because they're now going to Coors Field, a total of 10. Mackenzie Gore versus Jose Quintana with the Rangers right around minus 146 and minus 155. The Rangers have not played a lot of overs this year. I recognize that it's Coors Field. Would you be willing to take a 10 to the over against a guy in Jose Quintana? I look at that 3.95 ERA and I fully expect it to go northward.
Yeah, if you want to talk about a guy who's going to get dealt at the deadline, it's Quintana, the way he's playing, right? And who knows if this will continue. It wouldn't surprise me if a month or 2 months from now he's DFA'd. Like, this is the polarity that we see from a guy like Jose Quintana every single time he has these types of starts. But I will say this is not a new thing for Jose Quintana. This is why he gets dealt at the deadline seemingly every single season, because the first half of the year he comes correct. And then whether it's, age, fatigue, just the right scouting ports, teams just getting better as in general and able to kind of tag him up, that's when he starts to fall off, is around kind of that late July, August time every single year. And it's a pretty bad fall off. But in this vacuum with a team like the Rockies that nobody wants to back in Coors, that's going to give their offense that kind of inherent lift, I do tend to think a first 5 money line stab on the Rockies in this game isn't the worst thing in the world. Mackenzie Gore is a very toolsy pitcher, a lot of upside, still very, very young, and he could end up being a real star. We've seen those flashes at times across the board in Washington and in Texas already, but he hasn't really been kind of living up to that consistency building. And so, hey, I don't like backing Jose Quintana personally, but against an anemic offense like the Rangers, the way that it currently sits, I do tend to think that the Rockies could scrape out a 2-1 edge for those first 5 frames, and I'm kind of willing to be back in that side of things.
Yep, it has been very interesting to take a look at this Colorado Rockies team, to say the least, because they've been much better this year than they were a season ago. It's really not saying much, but they've been much better this year than they were a season ago. And for the Rangers, I do expect a little bit of positivity with that lineup as well. And then I just keep looking at the board, and every single time I look, I see value on the Tampa Bay Rays, and I feel like I see it once again on Monday. Trevor Rogers, I was questioning whether or not 2025 was for real or not. Looks like he has turned into a great pumpkin. Meanwhile, Shane McClanahan is rocking and rolling. Rays are between about minus 135 and minus 145 favorites. How do you look at this one with a Orioles team that it just feels like it's been a hodgepodge season for them in general, and the Rays, they just continue to find ways to manufacture wins?
Yeah, and you kind of, highlighted Trevor Rogers there, and he's definitely the guy to highlight because, this total is sitting around 7.5, and it's not just because, Shane McClanahan's going to go out there and shut down the Orioles offense, even though the Orioles against lefties, it's not pretty, and it hasn't been pretty now for feels like 3-4 consecutive seasons. Now, at the same time, Trevor Rogers, to your point, he's had some serious blow-up outings where he's not going deep into ball games. He's given up a lot of runs. What I can kind of say and kind of highlight in terms of, potentially the quote-unquote good or the underlying good is that he's keeping hard hits relatively low and just kind of getting paid for it with, these sort of picking the spot singles, walking hitters, getting himself in trouble at a lot of times. And I do tend to think that if he's going to get right, it can potentially be against a lineup that does feature a lot of lefties that like to have that high OBP. if he can go out there and attack them, I think this really could cater to a really good under spot, because I think the Orioles are going to struggle to score runs. Whether or not they win, even with a low output, we will see. But I think Trevor Rogers, if he comes correct, could have one of his better outings so far this year, and that could keep that total well below 7.5, maybe even in the range of like 3 or 4 total scored runs in this game.
And we have seen the ballpark out there in Tampa just really suppress offense this year. Tropicana, they're back there after they were at Steinbrenner Field last year, so that's very important as well. And then I look at Astros versus Twins. It looks like Henry Rojas is going to be the opener before Simeon Woods Richardson, who's been awful. And then you've got Tatsuya Amai for the Astros, and he's right now giving up 9.9 walks per 9 innings. The total's 9.5 to 10. I want to get your thoughts here because this is a relative pick'em game. Astros rock solid with their offense, absolutely awful with their pitching. Minnesota Twins, absolutely awful with their pitching. They've been able to get some offense going as well. But you also have a very high total out there in Minnesota where it's still not the world's warmest.
If we're going to highlight a team here, I think it's worth highlighting the Twins as of late, because obviously they just lost a series against the Brewers, but they were in every single one of those games. It was a 1-run margin, either in the win column for them or in the L column in the 2 prior games, prior to Sunday, that is. And then you kind of bleed that into the past 2 series, even, going back to Cleveland and Miami. The offense started to pick up. It became a little bit more consistent. The pitching was a lot more consistent as of late as well. And now you kind of look up at the Twins, and they've won 6 of their last 9 games. It counts for something when some of these sort of living in the doldrum type of teams kind of find that little spark and get some things going. And especially when you're talking about the Astros, I get it. The Twins are a dumpster fire, but the Astros are probably tenfold given the expectations that they had coming into the year. And so I think when you're looking at this game in a vacuum, also the travel aspect of Houston coming around that quick turnaround, they were playing at home. Now they have to go all the way up to Minnesota. Minnesota's continuing their homestand. I tend to think the Twins are going to be able to kind of edge this one out. And I don't love Simeon Woods Richardson, but I don't love either pitcher in this matchup. So maybe it's just like one of those ones where you say, take the over, maybe take the Twins, and kind of group them together.
Yeah, both of these pitchers have had a rough go of it this season, to say the least. And this one I think is interesting as well, because talking about pitchers have a rough go of it, Andrew Painter has painted a north of 6 ERA for the Phillies. Nick Lodolo in his 2 starts since coming off the injuries for the Reds above an 8 ERA. We've got a total of 9.5. Am I a schmuck for thinking we might get some positivity here and banking on the under? Because if it weren't for Kyle Schwarber along with Bryce Harper, this Phillies offense, it really has no offense. And for the Cincinnati Reds, Cousin Sal Stewart along with Ellie De La Cruz, outside those 2 guys, you have pretty much no offense with them too.
I 100% agree. And to your point, when you look at 2 inflated ERAs like this, it's going to send every single group chat in America who bets on Major League Baseball into being like, hey, we got a free over. The reality is, a lot of times when you do see those high ERA numbers, that's where you do the polar opposite of what those numbers might be suggesting. And, we've seen Lodolo over the years turn out ace-like stuff. Now, he hasn't been in that kind of form. Obviously, the last couple seasons, he's dealt with a number of different injuries that have kept him, mound rust heavy, if you will. And so are we going to get that sort of vintage Lodolo? Can he kind of resurrect this season after a really rough start? I tend to think that the upside is warranted because of what we just mentioned of these inflated ERAs kind of leading people to go gravitate towards the over. And same thing with Andrew Painter on the other side. I don't think that he is a guy that if the Phillies make the postseason should be in the rotation, but he's not this level of bad, in my opinion. He's not Taijuan Walker, for gosh sakes. And so I do tend to think the under is the play here. I also do like taking a shot here with the Reds coming off of a skid, the Phillies coming off of a sweep through the first 5 frames. I think Lodolo could go out there and shut down this Phillies lineup, and that would give us as bettors a nice little plus money stab in a spot where I think we actually do have the better pitcher on our side.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And I do think that for Andrew Painter, we're going to see some positivity with them. It's been a rough start to the season for both of these guys, but I think that they bounce back. And we've got ourselves a great card on Monday. We've got actually 28 of 30 teams in action. You don't find that very often on a Monday. Anything else that's really catching your attention on this slate?
Yeah, I think there's one game that's extremely, extremely mispriced. And so a lot of people are going to take, potentially the run line here, or it's going to be a parlay money line spot. with people back in the Yankees over the Blue Jays tomorrow because, hey, it's Patrick Corbin. It's always been the narrative of fading Patrick Corbin. Well, the last 3 seasons, he's honestly been a guy that goes out there, pitches 6 or 7 innings of 3 earned or 4 earned ball, seemingly every single outing, or at least 3 out of 4 before that one inevitable blow-up outing. And now he's riding a sub-4 ERA. And I would get this line if it was Max Fried when he was healthy, or Cam Schlittler, but it's not. It's Ryan Weathers. And the money line is nearly minus 200 right now for the Yankees, and it's plus 170 for the Blue Jays. We just saw how the Yankees fared in a rivalry type setting. This is a team that's lost. They've gone 2-6 over the last 8 games. They are in a little bit of a skidding set. I get it. This could be the skid buster type of game for the Yankees here. But I think the Blue Jays are getting healthy. I think they have a chance to tee off against a guy like Ryan Weathers, who does attack the zone, and at a plus 170 price, just because the name on the bump is Patrick Corbin. Give me a break. I'm all over the Blue Jays. I think it's one of my favorite bets of the day.
Yep, and when it comes to the Blue Jays, it's just all about finding offense with this team because they don't strike out very often, and they've got guys that are getting on base. They just have not had any power whatsoever. Flagler Jr. at 2 home runs. I have to think that goes northward a little bit here. Like what I've seen out of Ryan Weathers this far this season, but with the Yankees, so sporadic as well. So that's going to be a fun one to look at. And Rob, I know you're doing an amazing job looking at the baseball card day in and day out. You're getting set for the upcoming football, college basketball seasons, and so much more. So love to get people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, it's always a blast talking ball with you, my man. And for those who want to follow my bets on a nightly basis or a daily basis, that is Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I appreciate having me on, man.
Always great to be able to have Rob aboard every single time he joins me. He lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we catch them all.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order. We've got one interleague game that is going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started. This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road. They're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. Andrew Painter goes for the Phils, and Nick Lodolo is on the bump for the Reds. The Reds are anywhere between plus 104 to plus 110 underdogs. Minus 119 to minus 129 is a number on Philadelphia. 9.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And for the Reds, I need at least a plus 113 to take a shot on the money line. We were seeing plus 115, plus 120 a little bit earlier. Heck, if you had to take a run half, I'd be looking to take a run half with the Reds. I'm going to be in on them in some form or capacity. I do think that we get that plus 115 back like we were seeing a little bit earlier. So in on the Reds there, and I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. I think that both of these pitchers are doing for a lot of positivity. For Nick Lodolo, he was rock solid last year. 333 ERA, 9 strikeouts, 1.8 walks per 9 innings, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9, and this year he just came off the injured list, 868 ERA, 3 home runs allowed in 9 and a third innings. He's been a little bit rusty. Think that he gets it going here, and Recognize that for the Phillies, man, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, these guys are on an absolute tear right now. For Kyle Schwarber, I'm pretty sure that he's on pace for 55-plus home runs right now. Both of these guys are going to be over a 360 on base. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what we're seeing there, but I mean, sooner rather than later, that run is going to run out, and who else is really hitting right now for the Philadelphia Phillies? You just expect more out of these infielders like Trey Turner down for what? The entire catcher spot with JT Realmuto being banged up, Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott. All these guys are giving you an on-base percentage that's below a 290. Nobody's really hitting above a 237 with any power whatsoever. That cuts out Schwarber and Harper, who have a combined 32 home runs, 20 of them coming from Schwarber, by the way. Nobody else on the roster has more than 4 home runs. Oh, Brandon Marsh hitting above a 300, and Justin Crawford to be able to move the line a little bit. To have a Phillies bullpen that now is Yohan Duran back off of injury. That helps him out quite a bit. And Orion Kirkring, who began the season on the injury list, has been solid as well. You do have some weak links in the bullpen like Jonathan Bull and Jose Alvarado. Both of these guys above a 450 with regards to ERA. Brad Keller seems to be rounding into form a little bit more. And then you've had a few of these mix and match guys like Tim Meza, not necessarily be too bad for the Reds through the first month of the season. They were actually number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. And man, it has just toilet pulled ever since then. Emilio Pagan being on the injury list, I honestly don't think is a bad thing. But Tony Santillan now rocking an ERA that is above a 5. Connor Phillips has his ERA above a 5, but you still have the likes of Graham Ashcraft, Brock and Roll Burke, Sam Mull. These guys give you a sub-335 ERA. And on the flip side, when it comes to Andrew Painter, he's had himself a relatively rough start to the season as well. Right now, he's finding a 621 ERA, but the 482 fielding, depending points towards positivity. He's a guy that is able to give you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's a rookie, so he's been a little bit young. And for the Reds, it's been a little bit up and down with their offense as well, because just like Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper are carrying the Phillies, Sal Stewart and Ellie De La Cruz are doing the same for the Reds. You've got these two guys combined for 21 home runs. De La Cruz, a 365 on base, a combined 19 stolen bases from these guys. The team as a whole has 40 stolen bases, and then got so many guys like Brian Hayes, Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel, only below $175. Matt McLean has been able to about at 220, so that's been an issue. These mix and match guys like Reese Hines and company just have not been able to give you too much whatsoever. Nathaniel Lowe has been able to get a little bit out, 6 home runs and less than 100 bats, so that's been relatively solid. But I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game, even though wind should be blowing out there in Philadelphia. Tad plus 114 or better. Looking at the Reds on the money line, do like the under. Semi total at 8.4. 953 and 954 on the card. It's the Braves. They're going to be on the road against the Miami Marlins. Max Meyer goes for the Marlins, and J.R. Ritchie is on the bump for the Bravos. Braves are slight underdogs here, anywhere between minus 102 to a minus 110, between minus 105 to a minus 116 is that number on Miami. 8.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. Willing to take the Braves at that minus 102, minus 105. Set them at a minus 107. Now, J.R. Ritchie is very much due in for a lot of regression on his ERA. He's been able to do a solid job in terms of holding down the fort thus far, but you do have to think that it's just not sustainable having a 3.32 ERA and a 6.14 fielding dependent. He's given up 6.2 walks to 7.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. Look at what he did at the minor league level. He was superb for Gwinnett this year, a sub-1 ERA, so I do think that he's going to be able to round into form, so I do think that fielding dependent and just his overall numbers are going to be going downward, though. I think he's going to get stung a little bit more with some of those mistakes. Meanwhile, for Max Meyer, he has been great for the Miami Marlins. How about a 3.21 ERA, 3.18 fielding dependent, 10.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowing less than 1 home run per 9, and you've got a Marlins bullpen that has been in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Recognize that it's been a little bit up and down for some of these guys. Now you're getting Pete Fairbanks back off the injury list, but John King has been the king of being able to give you a sub-250 ERA. Calvin Fauché back down below a 3.50 ERA. It's been a rough season for Anthony Bender thus far. He's been posting up a north of 3.55 ERA. Michael Peterson has seen a little bit of regression as well. Great name, but so they've been able to have Blake McCarr do a solid job in long relief. The one thing with the Marlins is that they're not going to give you a lot of power. This team is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis. Liam Hicks, 9 bombs. He's been able to give you 345 on base. Lone guy on the roster that gives you over 4 home runs. Now, do have Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, 4 bombs apiece, and they've both been able to hit above a 315 and have a lot of guys that are finding a way to be able to get on base. It's been a small sample size, but Javier Sanchez hitting about a 260 for this unit. You should be able to get a little bit more out of Kyle Stowers. Has not been himself since coming off the injury list, but do think that he'll round into form. But some of these guys like Alberto Hernandez, Owen Casey hitting below a 230. You just need a little bit more there. And on the flip side for the Atlanta Braves. This team is currently number 2 in the big leagues in terms of run creation, and this is with Ronald Acuna Jr. currently being on the injured list. Matt Olson, 14 bombs, give you a 350 on base. Drake Baldwin, 13 home runs at the catcher spot, hitting a 3-iron. And then Ozzy, Albies hitting at 275 with 8 home runs. Michael Harris is giving you 8 home runs. Heck, these guys like Mauricio Dubon, Dom Harris, they're moving the line for you. And for the Atlanta Braves, this has been a top 7 team with regards to bullpen ERA since coming on over from the Colorado Rockies at the trade deadline last year. Tyler Kinley in a Braves uniform has a sub 325 ERA. Now you've got reinforcements in the bullpen with Ronaldo Lopez. Over there, you've been able to get good innings out of Robert Suarez, Raciel Iglesias, both supplying a sub 1 ERA. Dylan Lee a sub 1 ERA as well. So I do think that the Braves get the job done here. I think that the bullpen holds this under. So somebody told it 8.3, like the under for the Braves, willing to lay up to minus 106 on that money line. 955, 956 on the card. The Metropolitans are on the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals. Jake Irvin is on the bump for the Nats. Christian Scott, great Scott, goes for the Mets, and the Mets do find themselves as a favorite between minus 134 to minus 144, between a plus 115 to a plus 120 is that number on Washington. 10 is the total. Under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, 6.9.5 set over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I'm willing to take a shot here on the Nationals, set them at a plus 104. Now, if you look at the raw ERA of Jake Irvin, 591, that's rough, but a 464 fielding dependent. Career high, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, still gives up 3+ walks, over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That's an issue, but now you get to go up against a Mets lineup that is 27th in scoring at the very least. They were going into Sunday, might have gone up a spot or two because they had that just ridiculous end of the game against the New York Yankees, but still, other than Juan Soto, who's been able to give you 376 on base, he's up to 6+ home runs. The only other player that's on at bat that's hitting a 243 for the team that saw action yesterday is AJ Ewing, and he's had less than 60 at-bats at the big league level, and I believe that he's the only other player that had above a 305 on base other than MJ Melendez. Melendez has been able to give you a little bit of something in terms of on base percentage, but Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, these guys have been awful. Mark Vientos can sometimes give you some power, but he's all over the place. You've been able to get a bit more out of Carson Benjay recently, but he had a gaff in the field over the weekend as well. I actually do like this bullpen of the Mets, sans Devin Williams, who has been awful, and Luke Weaver seems to be rounding into form a little bit. He's still rocking an ERA that's above a 375, but it's been looking better for him. The likes of Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley, Austin Warren, these are guys giving you a sub 3 ERA. Flip side, you've got a Nationals bullpen that is not so great, though you've had PJ Poole be able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Paxton Schultz has been able to do an okay job. CNL Perez is just absolutely awful, but Brad Lord is able to give you some long relief. They've dealt with a few injuries, with Cole Henry being on the injury list, but yesterday's opener, Richard Dickey Lovelady, has been solid. And for the Washington Nationals, this team actually leads all of baseball in terms of run creation. James Wood, CJ Abrams have just absolutely carried the team. A combined 21 home runs, both are giving you over a 380 on base. You're going to need a little bit more from some of the ancillary guys to be able to keep this up, but you do have Dallin Lyle, Luis Garcia, both hitting above a 270. Jose Tena has been able to move the line when he's been out there now. Likes of a Nasim Nunez, Jacob Young, Curtis Mead, even someone like a Drew Milas, a backup catcher. These guys hitting at 230 or lower, you're going to need a bit more there, but Joey Weimer probably should be seeing more at bats. He's been pretty solid thus far this season. And for Christian Scott, well, the ERA is pretty solid right now. He's rocking in that neighborhood about a 345 ERA. 5.2 walks per 9 innings is an issue, so I do think that the Nationals go out there, get the job done. Like the under, so I total 9.3, and with the Nationals, set them at a plus 104, so plus 105 or better, like that money line. 957, 958 on the card. It's the Cubs. They are going to be playing against the Milwaukee Brewers. Brandon Sproat is on the bump for the Brew Crew. Shota Imanaga goes for the Cubs. The Cubs are minus 160 to minus 160 favorites, between plus 135 to a plus 145. That number on the Brewers. Right now, I'm only seeing an opener at a few spots with regards to total that is 7.5, overs minus 120, and the unders even. And if you're looking at the Cubs run lines between plus 120, seeing as good as plus 130, and I do like the run line of the Cubs, pretty much even money or better. I'd be willing to take a shot there. Brandon Sproat just is not a guy that I trust in whatsoever as of right now. For Brandon Sproat, 575 ERA, 572 fielding dependent, 2 home runs, 5 walks allowed per 9 innings, facing off against the Cubs team that's averaging about 5.1 runs per game. Now, recognize that some of the guys for the Cubs have been a little bit up and down. You've been dealing with a few injuries as Dansby Swanson has been out of the lineup a little bit, but even when he was out there, he was hardly hitting above the mid-dose line of a 200. You've had Pico Armstrong obviously be a little bit of liability at the plate, great, but he's been able to do a good job with his glove. He did have a little bit of a rough one yesterday, but still, overall, he's been able to give you some positivity there. But you continue to have Ian Happ, Napiapolis, 8+ home runs. He's been able to give you over 350 on base. Equal Horners give you a 340 on base. Just up and down the boulevard, you have pretty much everyone for this team doing a good job moving the line, getting on base. Carson Kelly's not going to give you a ton of power, but he's hitting for about a 300. And all of a sudden, Michael Conforto's finding the fountain of youth, over a 450 with regards to the on base. Now, what's key in this game as well is obviously the Wrigley Field wind situation, and looks like you are going to get some very, very favorable hitting conditions. Right now, it looks like it's going to be blowing out at like 12+ miles per hour, and for Brandon Sproat, that's not great to say the least. And I do expect a little bit of regression from Shota Imanaga. Imanaga has been so much better this year. Last year, he was just getting banged around like a pinata. This year, 2.32 ERA, 0.8 home runs, 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Last year, he's down below 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up over 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. And with the Brewers, this is not really a power hitting team. They're in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. But as we know, reinforcements have come for this team. Christian Yelich, Jackson Chourio, Andrew Vaughn all have returned over the last 2 weeks. So you should be seeing a little bit more boom there. And Yelich went deep yesterday. Jake Bauers continues to give you a 358 on base. Same for William Contreras. You've been able to have a north of 400 on base out of Bryce Terang. These guys do a great job in terms of swiping bags as well. And for the Brewers, it's been about a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. Much of that has been due to the fact that you've had 2 guys in Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill not be themselves this year, but now you've got the likes of Grant Anderson, D. Alternative Hall, Aaron Ashby. I'll give you sub 325 ERA. And for the Chicago Cubs, this is a team that is very banged up with their bullpen. You've got Riley Martin, Caleb Theobar, both on the shelf as of right now. Porter Hodges' season is already over, and Phil Matone just has not been great, to say the least. But Obi Milner, sub 325 ERA. I like Jacob Webb. Daniel Palencia has been solid. Do think that the Cubs go out there, dominate this game, and I do think that with the win situation, you get a lot of scoring. So I might total 11.7, like the over. And for the Cubs, pretty much any plus money, I'm in on that run line. 959, 960 on the card. It's the Dodgers. They're going to be on the road against the Slam Diego Padres. Michael King hopes to be the king for the Pods, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are between minus 150 to minus 160 favorites, plus 130 to plus 135. That number on the Padres, 7.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115. Taking a shot here on the Padres. I set my money line price at a plus 123. Michael King might be a little bit down with his swing and miss stuff this season, but he has been highly effective thus far this season. 2.63 ERA, just 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. Do have to fear the 3.9 walks per 9 innings, but he is backed up by a bullpen that is supplying a 3 ERA when they are at home. For the Padres, you've had so many guys do a great job coming out of the bullpen. Obviously, Jason Adam, Mason Miller in the 8th and 9th inning give you a sub 2 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada, he started out the year really rough. He's back down below a 3.50 ERA. Audrey Marjon still has over a 5 ERA, but he's starting around into form as well. You get Wandy Peralta, Yuki Matsui back off the injured list. These guys have been pretty rock solid, and for the Padres, the big thing is the offense. It's been a bunch has been in the bottom half of the big leagues over the last 30 or so games in terms of run creation. Right now, your leader in homers is Xander Bogaerts, who was a big giant waste of money last season. He's up to about a 333 on base, being able to give you 7 home runs. And Gavin Sheets is starting to get it going with the power as well. He goes EPS rate. He's up to 7 home runs this season. Just not a lot of guys moving the line. And then you've obviously got Fernando Tatis Jr. 0 home runs this far this season. Looked a little bit better, the offense did, in their series against the Seattle Mariners. And Sheets actually had 2 home runs in that game yesterday, by the way. So we'll give him that. But Manny Machado still hitting below the Bedell line of 200. You need Ramon Laureano to hit better than a 220. Jackson Merrill's been an issue. Jake Cronenworth being on the injury list at this point really doesn't impact the team. And for the Dodgers, they've been averaging right around about 6.5 runs per game away from home. That's number 1 in all of baseball. I do think that part of what we saw last weekend was the byproduct of the LA Angels being absolutely awful, but Andy Paz continues above a 308 plus home runs. Shohei Ohtani seems to be getting right back online as well, back up to a 385 on base, and you know that this is a team that's going to be able to deliver great offense. Like, you look at the starting lineup yesterday for the team, every single player in the lineup hitting for at least a 257 with regards to the average. I think that Miguel Rojas was the only guy below a 335 on base. They're not hitting as many homers as they did in past seasons, though, and it is a ballpark out there in Petco that's obviously a little bit more pitcher friendly, and both of these bullpens are really good. Mentioned the Padres with their 3 bullpen ERA at home. You've got Blake Trinan, who's been an issue for this LA Dodgers team, but you get past him, you've got Alex Vesia, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They're looking to kick the tires on Eric Lauer. We'll see how that happens. But Tanner Scott, great Scott, he's been able to give you sub-2 ERA. But Yoshinobu Yamamoto, now giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, 365 average has had for his career, an ERA about 0.75 points lower away from home rather than at home. But do think that there's value here on Michael King and the Padres. So I did set my line at a plus 123. We'll take plus 124 better with the Pods, and like the under. So my total is 7.2. 961, 962 on the card. The Giants are on the road against the Diamondbacks. Zach Allen looks to fill it up for the Snakes, and Robbie Reyes has hit Parade to another start, and Giants do find themselves as a bit of an underdog here. You're going to be getting them between plus 110 to a plus 120. Meanwhile, for the Snakes, you're getting them in that neighborhood about minus 130 to minus 140 with a total of 9. The over and the under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I'm in on the Diamondbacks. I set them at a minus 142 for Robbie Ray. Even though he's got a relatively low ERA, I just fear that we're going to see this rise up very, very quickly. 304 ERA, but a 492 fielding dependent. He's given up 1.8 home runs, 3.6 walks per 9 innings, and while the Arizona Diamondbacks offense has been a little bit touch and go this season, and they are going to be coming back from elevation. That always impacts the team a little bit. I do feel like these guys are starting to round into form a little bit. It's been a slow start to the season for Lourdes Gurriel because he began the season on the injured list. He's only giving you about a 295 on base, and I think they just got his first home run of the season yesterday, but Heliormo Vargas has really carried the mail for the team. He's been able to give you 7+ bombs. He's hitting above 300. Corbin Carroll, he's back up to 7 bombs. He's giving you a 390 with regards to his on base. Heck, Nolan Arenado, who I thought his career was done, he's now giving you a 350 on base. Geraldo Perdomo's out with injury. He's starting to get on as well. Same goes for Gabriel Moreno, so that's a big positive for this team. For the Diamondbacks, bullpen is still obviously a little bit shaky, but to have the guys like Jonathan Loaiska, Juan Barrio, Taylor Clark, these are guys that are right now supplying a sub 335 ERA, and with the Giants, we are starting to see quite a bit of regression with regards to that bullpen. They're still a top 12 team in terms of bullpen ERA, and they had themselves a pretty solid series against the Athletics, so you do like to see that. Sam Entridge still has yet to give up a run for this team, and Caleb Killian has really been a nice find for them as well. He's up to a sub 3 ERA. You've been able to get some good innings of JT Brubaker, but for the Giants, they entered into Sunday dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation. You just need more out of the guys that you paid so much money to. Willie Adames along with Rafael Devers, both of these guys 5 home runs or fewer, both of these guys a sub 300 on base, and I mean, it's really bad for Adames. He's hitting a 234 with 3 home runs. You just need a little bit more there. But you do have still guys that are finding a way on base. Luis Arias had a pair of home runs over the weekend, and he's been able to give you now about a 328 average. Jungle Lee moves the line. He's hitting about a 265. Now, you are dealing with a few ailments with regards to this lineup with Eloy Ramos now being out the fold, but Casey Schmidt, he has stepped up in a big way. 8 home runs, about a 345 on base. And for Zach Allen, it's been rough for him when he's been away from him. He's a guy that you could trust in Arizona. He's always had some pretty demonstrative home and road splits this season for Allen. At home, he's posting up in that neighborhood about a 265 ERA. He's given up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. Away from home, 725 ERA, 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So do think that the Diamondbacks do go out there, get the job done, and think they get a lower scoring game with the way that the Giants have really not connected with the ball this season. Semi-total at 8.3, like the under end. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 141 on that Diamondbacks money line. 963, 964 on the card. It's the Orioles. They're going to be on the road against the Rays. Shane McClanahan goes for the Rays, and Trevor Rogers is on the bump for Baltimore. And Baltimore is a underdog here between plus 115 to a plus 130. Meanwhile, minus 136 to minus 145. That number on the Rays with a total of 7.5. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is between even a minus 110 and with the Rays, I'm in on their money line. Minus 163 is what I set it at. For Shane McClanahan, he has been a rock solid for this Rays team all season long. Right now, he is giving you a 227 ERA, just 1 home run allowed in 39 and 2/3 innings. He's getting 9.3 strikeouts per 9. Walks are a little bit of an issue, but I mean, it was pointed out very astutely by Rob Donaldson, the fact that you've got a Baltimore Orioles team that they have really struggled against lefties over the last few seasons in general. Right now, for this Baltimore Orioles team, they're just not connecting with them. They're hitting at 226 against lefties, so that's a big giant issue for you. You're not getting a ton of power with regards to this Orioles team outside of Gunnar Henderson and a few others, as well as Henderson and Pete Alonso, 8 to 9 home runs apiece, but both of these guys are now hitting below a 230, so you need a little bit more there for Henderson. The on-base percentage is a 269. That's just very brutal in general. Expecting much more power out of Taylor Ward. We'll say he is giving you 419 on base, and that's a good thing. Adley Rutschman has been down a little bit with power, but he's been able to move the line as well. Samuel Basallo is finally starting to live up to that contract. He's hitting at 275. You do love to be able to see that, but it's these younger guys like Colin Cowser, who did have a home run to his credit yesterday, Kobe Mayo, Tyler O'Neill, hitting a $190 or less. These guys really need to pick it up, and for the Orioles, the bullpen has been able to pick it up a little bit more. I recognize that you've had a few guys, Keegan Aiken, along with Andrew Kittredge that began the season on the injury list that just have not been able to give you too much whatsoever. But Ynier Cano, Rico Garcia, Diedrich Hens, these are guys give you a sub-3 ERA. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, after a brutal start to the season for this bullpen, they're now starting to get back online. Kirk Clevenger coming off the injury list was a big cog. Cole Sulzer, Brian Baker, the former Orioles, have been able to give you sub-350 ERA. You've got Kevin Kelly down below a 250 ERA as well. And you've got Junior Caminero on the flip side in terms of the offense, doing a nice job supplying bombs. He's up to 12 home runs, giving you about a 345 on base, and they for the longest time got nothing out of the catcher spot. He and Nick Fortes has been able to about a 280 for the team. Johnny DeLuca sitting at 275. Former Oriole Cedric Mullins really needs to get online, but past that, you've got Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, give you 375 on base. Heck, Richie Palacios has been able to move line. As we know, the Trop suppresses offense a little bit, but just not liking what I'm seeing out of Trevor Rogers right now. He dealt with a really bad illness, and in his first start back off of it, it just seemed like he was on himself. Overall for the season, 5.77 ERA, 1.3 home runs, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, fewer than 8 strikeouts per 9. Think that the Rays get to him here. So I saw my total 7.7, like the over for the Rays, willing to lay up to a minus 162 on that money line. 965, 966 on the card. And it's the Guardians. They are going to be on the road facing off against the Detroit Tigers, as Framber Valdez goes for the Tigres and Slade Ciconi goes for the Guardians. And the Guardians do find themselves a pretty good sized underdog here. You're going to be getting them anywhere between plus 125 to plus 135. Meanwhile, minus 150 to minus 155. That number on Detroit, and the total is 8 to 8.5. On the 8.5, under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. On the 8, the over is minus 120. Under is even. If you're looking to lay a run half with Detroit, that's between plus 132 to a plus 140, and I'm going to be looking at that run line at a plus 135 or greater. Set my money line at a minus 154, but I just do not trust in Slade Ciconi whatsoever. Recognize that Framber Valdez has had his faults as well. You even go back to the final few weeks that he's with the Houston Astros last season. In his final 10 starts with the Astros, he gave 4+ runs in 8 of those starts. He's right now got a 4.32 ERA with a 4.04 fielding dependent this year, but 0.9 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. Those are relatively respectable numbers, and for Slade Ciconi, not really respectable numbers right now. Hardy 5.60 ERA. He's given up more like 1.6 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, and even though he's backed up by a pretty solid bullpen of the Cleveland Guardians, recognize that the beginning part of the season has not necessarily been great for some of these guys, like a Hunter Gaddis, who has really struggled. They have gotten to the point where they're looking at Cody Hewer for a few innings. I do think that they're going to be able to get back online. Tim Aaron, he's been able to supply a sub-2 ERA. You've been able to get good production of Eric Sabrowski with a sub-3 ERA, and Kate Smith, after a brutal start to the season, he's been able to get back online as well. And while the Guardians are more around a league average team in terms of run creation, you have to think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with some of the ancillary guys and progression with the better guys, because we have seen the likes of Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, Reese Hoskins all give you a big giant nothing burger thus far this season. For Ramirez, he still give you a 360 on base with 7 home runs, but hitting at 230, you just expect more there. We'll say the 20 stolen bases have been absolutely incredible for the team. And then I've had Chase Salata, Brian Rocchio give you a 365 on base, and Hoskins 196 average, a 367 on base. I'm not sure how that jives, but I do think that that's going to be in for a little bit of regression as well. Austin Hedges has actually been hitting at the catcher spot as well, hitting for about a 265. I do think that that's going to be going downward sooner rather than later. And then on the flip side for the Detroit Tigers, you have plenty of guys that are moving the line, getting on base, but the power numbers have been down for them. You've got Dylan Dingler, who's supplying 8 home runs right now. He's been leading the way for the team. At Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, 6 home runs apiece, but Carpenter's right now dealing with a little bit of ailment. Torkelson, he's hitting for a 196. We'll say the on-base percentage of 315 is solid. Then you've got Riley Green, Kevin McGonigal, only 6 home runs between the two of them. Both are going to be at least a 394 on base. Gleyber Torres, when he's been out there, has been able to give you about a 390 on base. Unfortunately, he is currently on the injury list, so that's been hurting the team quite a bit. And some of the understudies like Zach McKinstry, out there in the outfield, Wencio Perez, they just have not been able to give you too much whatsoever. But for the Tigers, they're about a league average team right now in terms of bullpen area. Feels like they've been able to find it a little bit more as well. Ever since Kyle Finnegan came over from the Nationals, he's had a sub-2 ERA for this unit. You've been able to get some good innings. The likes of a Birch Smith, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I'm a big believer in Brendan Hennepy as well. Do not trust in Kenley Jansen at the closer spot, but I do think that for the Tigers, they do a nice job getting to Ciconi here between the 8 to the 8.5. I'd rather take an 8 over rather than an 8.5 under, because I do think that the Tigers start to find it a little bit more on offense. So like that over, and with the Tigers plus 134 better, I do like that run line. 967, 968 on the card. It's the Blue Jays on the road against the Yankees. Ryan Weathers looks to weathers the storm for the Yankees, and Patrick Corbin is on the bump for Toronto. Toronto underdogs a plus 168 to a plus 180. Meanwhile, minus 187 to minus 210 is that number on the Yankees money line. If you're looking at the run line, that's pretty much even money to plus 105 across the board. Total on scheme game 8.5 to 9. On the 8.5, over is minus 120 and the under is even. And on the 9, the under is minus 120. Over is even with the New York Yankees. I did set their money line price here at a minus 179. So plus 180 was my bare bones minimum buy point here on the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm going to be willing to take a shot. Now, Patrick Corbin, I think, is going to be doing for some inevitable regression. You just take a look at it. 4.40 plus ERA each out of the last 6 seasons. He's right now got a 3.93 ERA. Not really blowing it past teams with 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's not hurting himself, though. 0.8 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings. And for the Blue Jays, you've got a nice trio of guys. Tyler Rogers, Louis Varlin, throw in there as well. Braden Fisher, who will be able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. So the bullpen has been able to hold up. Now, when you've trotted out there guys like Jeff Hoffman and company, it's not been great in terms of bullpen to say the least, but hey, they've been relatively respectable, and the Yankees bullpen is starting to regress a little bit. They're down to about 11th in terms of bullpen ERA. And for Ryan Weathers, I like what I've seen out of him. He was able to have a career high in strikeouts last season, and he's won up that thus far this season. He's rocking a 3 ERA. He's been giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings as well, but you have been noticing Camilo Doval just not being good in this bullpen. David Benner, well, he pooped the Benner yesterday, and the game had to go to extra innings yesterday, so that did burn up a little bit more of the Yankees bullpen than what was expected. And you do have Fernando Cruz, who's right now giving a sub 250 ERA. I like what I've seen out of Brent Hendrick thus far, and I mean, Tim Hill, he's been relatively solid as well, but still, it is a team that has a little bit of shakiness currently going on in the bullpen, especially with them utilizing so many arms yesterday. And for the lineup, it's been all about Ben Rice along with Aaron Judge. Both guys are giving you over a 4 base, 15 plus home runs out of both of these guys, but then you've got so many other guys that are leaving something to be desired. We'll say Paul Goldschmidt has been a nice find for this team, a 380 on base, but it's a lot of those infielders. Jazz Chisholm, along with Anthony Volpe, who they just recalled from the minor league level. Ryan McMahon, the entirety of the catcher spot that is sitting below a 225 right now. I think Chisholm might be up to a 230, so yay, verily there, but Trent Grisham has been absolutely awful for this team as well. And for the Blue Jays, I do think that there's inevitable positivity for this lineup, one that is actually number 1 in the big leagues in terms of fewest strikeouts on a per at-bat basis. They just have not been able to provide a lot of power because, I mean, you've got the young outfielder in Pinago, who's been able to hit above a 300 for this team. You've got Flagler Jr., Miles Straw, Ernie Clement. These are guys hitting at 280 plus, and for Guerrero, finally got his 3rd home run of the season yesterday. I think that there's going to be some inevitable positivity there. Jesus Sanchez is a guy that's hitting about a 260 for this team. We've seen Andres Jimenez start to hit the toilet bowl a little bit, but I mean, even with don't call his name Alejandro Kirk out, you've been able to get Brandon Valenzuela to be able to give you some good average as well. And for Patrick Corbin, I think he does just enough for the Blue Jays to be able to hold in this game. I did set my total at an 8.7. Personally, I would rather be taking the 8.5 over rather than the 9 under, mainly because we're mostly seeing 8.5, so do like the over. And for the Blue Jays, plus 180 or better, looking at the money line, 969, 970 on the card. It's the Royals, and they're going to be playing host the Boston Red Sox. Sonny Gray hopes to make it a sunny gray for Boston fans, and you've got Seth Lugo going for the Royals. The Royals are anywhere between even money to minus 110, between minus 107 to a minus 116, then around Boston, and the total is 9. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. I actually do like the under here. I did set my total at an 8.4. Something that you do want to be mindful of is that the Royals, because they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium, which has led to some very demonstrative home and road splits for the Royals and their offense. They're averaging over 5 runs per game at home, 3.1 runs per game away from home, but I do feel like Sonny Gray, even though he's way down with his swing and miss stuff, it has never been this low. He's down to about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That he's been able to adjust. He's able to utilize what he's got as he's a little bit older now. I believe he's like 36 years old, but that said, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of not hurting himself. 1.1 home runs, 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings, and for Seth Lugo, to his credit, he's only given up 1 home run this season, but he's not going to give you a lot of deception. He's got a 3.76 ERA. He is getting about 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I've just noticed this with Seth Lugo. He always gets off to a really nice start to the season, and then he gets figured out, and then things start to toilet bowl. That seems to be happening right now with him giving up at least 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. And for the Red Sox, this has been a unit that has been really rough with their offense. They're in the bottom 8 in terms of runs per game. I do think that there's a little bit of positivity here. Mickey Gasper has been able to give you a little bit of a sign of life, hitting above 300. Weiler Abreu is wild out. He's been able to give you about a 370 with regards to his on-base percentage. Not a ton of power, but still 6 home runs. And then you've got Wilson Torres, 360 on base. He's been able to display 9 bombs as well. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, but Trevor Story wasn't doing anything whatsoever. Need a bit more of someone like a Marcelo Meyer, who's been able to give you about a 220, but Ceddanne Rafaela is moving line. He's giving you about a 350 on base, and they're going to benefit from the fact that they face off against a Royals bullpen that is currently in the bottom 7 of the big leagues. In terms of ERA, you've been been able to get quite a bit out of Daniel Lynch. He's been able to supply you with a sub-350 ERA along with Lucas Erceg, but we've had a lot of these mix and match guys like Steven Cruz and company do absolutely nothing for the team. Matt Strahm now hits the injury list, so that's a big giant issue for this unit. They lost on El Zerpa in the offseason as well. He was very reliable for them. John Schreiber has been a little bit up and down with about a 360 ERA. And for the Boston Red Sox, they do continue to be a top 5 team in terms of bullpen area, with Aroldis Chapman obviously being one of the best closers that you're going to find in all of baseball. But additionally, you've got Garrett Woodlock, who's able to go out there, give you multiple innings. Was a little bit shaky for him to start the season, but he's down to about a 3.15 ERA. You've been able to have Tyler Semenaijo do a solid job in terms of holding it down. Justin Slayton off the injury list as he had to give up a run as well. And I do think that for Seth Lugo, we continue to see a little bit of regression there. And for the Royals, they just need, in terms of their lineup, to be getting a little bit more out of Salvador Perez along with Vinny Pasquantino. These are guys that are supposed to be supplying the boom, and they do now have a combined 12 home runs between the two of them, but they're hitting 202 and 205 respectively. Neither guy's above a 285 on base. Bobby Witt Jr., 7 home runs over the last about 25 or so days. He's been able to hit a 300. That's been pretty rock solid. You've got Miguel Garcia, who's been able to give you about a 265. Kyle Isbell is moving the line as well, but some of these mix and match guys like Elaine Thomas and company just have not been able to give you too much. So I like the under, so I tell it at 8.4 for the Red Sox. One to lay up to my 126 on that money line. 971, 972 on the card. It's the Astros. They're going to be on the road against the Twins. Kendry Rojas is going to be the opener for Simeon Woods Richardson here for the Twins, and Tatsuya Amai goes for the Astros. This is a relatively pick'em game. Both of these teams are between a -105 to a -115, and totals between 9.5 to 10. On the 9.5, over is -115, under is -105, and on the 10, under is -120, and the over is even. I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the under, and I recognize that both of these starting pitchers, wow, it has not been great to say the least. As right now, you've got a guy in Simeon Woods Richardson, who again, he's going to be the bulk guy in this one. 7.71 ERA, 4.3 strikeouts, 4.3 walks per 9 innings, giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. Amai, 9.24 ERA, 9.9 walks per 9 innings allowed. And these are teams 29 and 30th in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, my gosh. This has not been great, to say the least. The Astros, they're starting to wane with their offense as well. They're still a top 10 team in terms of run creation, but ever since Carlos Correa went down for the season due to injury, this team has not been the same. Still have Christian Walker along with Yordan Alvarez doing a solid job. Walker, 11 bombs. He's been able to give you an on-base percentage right around about 340, and Alvarez is flying 15 home runs. He's been able to give you well above a 420 on base, but the Zach DeZenzo, Zach Cole, both below a 290 on base. Brendan Shoemake has been able to hit well above a 300 with a little bit of power, but Cam Smith now below the middle line of 200. The catcher spot has been a revolving door for this team. They're relying upon Nick Allen. That's not a place where you want to be. And then in terms of bullpen, holy crud, these guys just have not been great, to say the least. Brian Abreu, well above a 5 ERA. AJ Blubaugh, Aniel De Los Santos, these guys are well above a 4. Like Stephen Oakert has a 360 in his ERA. Brian King is right around about the same. That's a big issue for the team. And now you lose Jose Altuve with a oblique strain as well, so that hurts this offense even further. And that's part of the reason why I do like the under, because the injuries I really do think are starting to swallow up this lineup of the Astros that was so good to begin the season. Flip side for the Minnesota Twins, you just don't have a lot of guys that move the line and get on base for you. Matt Wallner, Cody Clemens, both hitting below 230, even though both were able to give you 20 plus home runs. I think that Clemens may now actually be above a 230, so we'll give him a little bit of credit. He's looking a little bit better there, even though he's down a little bit with his power. And then you've been able to have Mr. Brooks Lee be able to give you 300 on base, and then Austin Martin, he's been the guy that's really been able to move the line, get on base. Right now he's giving you over 400 on base. That said, they've been dealing with a little bit of injury to Byron Buxton, who he was on an absolute tear. He missed that series against the Brewers over the weekend, so now they've got James Outman in the outfield, and well, he's been an automatic out. Royce Lewis, he's hitting like a $163 right now, but for the Twins, I still just have a little bit more faith in Simeon Woods Richardson, because in the past he's been a relatively league average pitcher, and then you've got in the bullpen a guy, Taylor Rogers, who's been awful this year. Looks like he's starting to turn the corner now. You have Luis Garcia, Anthony Banda, Eric Orze, Justin Dopa, Yandres Gomez, pretty much all these guys that are rocking an ERA above a 4, other than Orze, who was actually solid with the Rays last season. But I do think that Rojas going to be able to give you a solid open here, and I do think that both of these starters give you a little bit more something. Somebody told 9.1, like the under for the Twins. One to lay up to -125 on the money line, 973, 974 on the card. It's the Athletics on the road against the Angels, as Walde Arena is on the bump for the Angels, and JT Ginn Juice is on the bump for the Athletics, and the Athletics do find themselves between -124 to -130 favorites, plus 106, plus 120. That number on the Halos, 9 is the total. Overs between even money to -110, -110 to -115 is the under, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Angels. Now, it's been a no good, very bad, terrible season for the Angels, to say the least, and they are third worst in the league in terms of run creation at home. They are averaging fewer than 3.7 runs per game at home. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of positivity there when it comes to JT Ginn. He's been able to supply you with an ERA of a 3.12, but fielding dependent of a 4.20. Like, you look at his last start against the St. Louis Cardinals, he gives up one unearned run in 6 innings, despite the fact that he gave up 9 hits. Like, it's all over the place with them. I feel like he's been getting very, very fortunate with the base runners that he's been putting on. Meanwhile, for Wilber Urania, the big thing that you have to take a look at with him is the walks, because this is an Angels bullpen that's not great. And for Urania, 0.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 is solid. The 5.6 walks per 9 innings, that is a big giant concern. But in his last start, he only gave up 1 walk, albeit that was against the Cleveland Guardians. But still, that's a sign of things in the right direction, and they're going to need him to lend a little bit of length, because this is an Angels team that's in the bottom 5 in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, when you've got Alec Manoah throwing innings, you know that you're going the wrong way down a one-way street. Kirby Yates is coming off the injury list, has been awful. Ryan Zephyrion, well above a 4 ERA. Jay Solseth has actually been relatively okay for the team. He's been able to give you sub 3, but other than that, it's been not pretty, to say the least, for the Angels. You've got Mike Trout, who's still been able to supply bombs, 400 base, 11 home runs. You do like to see that, but Zach Neto, like 2 home runs over the last 3 days. He's on a hitting about at 225. That's an issue after a nice start to the season. Jorge Soler is starting to toilet bowl, as well. Peraza is able to hit about at 260, but Yoan Makata, Logan O'Hoppe, Josh Lowe, these guys hitting below a 200 with a combined 8 home runs between the 3 of them. You just need a little bit more there, and for the Athletics, it is a team that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home. They're only averaging about 4 runs per game away from home. They very much benefit from playing in that ballpark in Sacramento. Now, Shea Langoliers, well, Shea is banged for 12 home runs, about a 400 on base. Tyler Soderstrom, though, Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, lying below the middle of 200. Now, for Rooker, he's been much better since coming off the injury list after a really shaky start to the season. Still have the likes of Nick Kurtz, Jeff McNeil, hitting above a 265 on Kurtz. He's been one of the best in terms of drawing walks in all baseball, over a 400 on base out of him. So that helps you out. And Carlos Cortez, somehow, someway, he's hitting for like a 400 base, so he's come out of nowhere there for the Athletics. This is a team that they themselves are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen area, even though they've got a few guys that I really like. Now, Mark Leiter Jr. is not one of them. He has been absolutely awful for this team, but that said, the likes of Hogan Harris, Luis Medina, Joe Kuno, these are guys who are give you a sub 3 ERA. Scott Barlow's a little bit of a roll of the dice, but he's been fine thus far this season, so I do like this total to the under, so I tell it an 80.3 and plus 107 or better. Looking at the Angels on the money line, 975, 976. The White Sox are on the road against the Mariners. Brian Wu says woohoo to another start, and Noah Schultz goes for the Southsiders. White Sox do find themselves between plus 146 to a plus 155. Meanwhile, minus 170 to minus 180. Then around Seattle, total on this game, it is 7. Over and under both at minus 110. If you're looking at the run line of the Mariners, getting that anywhere between plus 130 to plus 135. Need at least a plus 128, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that run line. Now, I like what I've seen out of Noah Schultz thus far. Young gun for the White Sox, and obviously got lit up in his last 2 starts to combine 10 runs allowed in his last 2, and he hasn't been the same pitcher when he's been away from him rather than when he has been at home, but he's pitched a little bit better than that ERA would indicate. 436 fielding dependent. He's only given up 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. The issue is a walk. 6.4 walks per 9 innings, and when you got a bullpen that has Sir Anthony Dominguez as your closer and Jordan Hicks pitching in high leverage situations, that's not great. White Sox are right now rocking a 4.58 bullpen ERA. That's about 24th in the league. Jordan Leisure has leisurely giving you over 4 ERA. We'll say Sean Newcomb, Grant Taylor, these guys have been solid in the bullpen, and with this White Sox team, they very much have relied upon the deep ball. They've been a top 6 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Miguel Vargas, Colson Montgomery, Montaki Murakami, all with at least 10 home runs, and Murakami over 15 home runs as far this season. He has been absolutely remarkable for this unit. You're starting to be able to get a few guys. They're moving the line as well. Same Antonasi has been able to give you about a 385 on base. Miguel Vargas is up to about a 375 on base along with Murakami, but then you got Luanel Acuna and the entirety catcher spot hitting below 185. That's been a big issue. Chase Meadroth has been solid, but also Andrew Benintendi, man, he's just not been able to supply the same amount of power that he did a season ago. And for Seattle, this is really the number 1 ballpark, other than perhaps Arlington, in terms of suppressing offense in all baseball. For the Mariners, it's been rough with regards to their offense. They've got Cal Raleigh on the injury list, but that's not too much of a loss considering what he had been providing thus far this season. Luke Raley has been your main power man. 10 home runs, hitting about a 270 for the team. You've got Julio Rodriguez, Josh Naylor, both hitting for about a 250 250, and for Rodriguez, after a slow start to the season, he's starting to pick it up. J.P. Crawford only hits for like a 215, but a 350 plus on base, so you'll take that. And Randy Rosarena, he's not hitting for a ton of home runs, but he does give you about a 390 on base. Additionally, for the Mariners, they entered in the Sunday Night Baseball top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERAs. You've had a lot of injuries for this team, with Matt Brash, Gabe Spire being on the injury list, and Andres Munoz hasn't even been himself, but likes of Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer, along with Cooper Kurzweil, maybe they will give you a sub-3 ERA, and I do think that we're going to see a bounce back here for Brian Wu. He's got a 391 ERA right now. He had a just rough stretch of 2 starts against the Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals, where he gave up 13 plus runs in those 2 starts. He's pretty much given up 300 runs or fewer in every one of his other starts. He's still only given up about 1 home run per 9 innings. He's given up less than 2 walks per 9. Recognize that the swing and miss stuff is a little bit down, but I do think that for Wu, gives you a relatively good start. Think that this total is a little bit too low, semi-total 7.4, so like the 7 to the over end, plus 128 or better. Looking at the Mariners run line, wrap things up with 977, 978 on the card. The Rockies are playing us to the Rangers. Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored by the Rockies, and Jose Quintana is on the bump for Colorado. Total on this game, it is 10, the over and under, both at minus 110, and with the Rangers, they are between minus 146 to minus 155 on the money line, plus 125 to a plus 135. Then around Colorado, run line price here for the Rangers is about even money to plus 105, and I'm going to take that run line. I was willing to take up to a minus 114 there. For Mackenzie Gore, it's been a case where he has been very shaky on the road this far this season. He's right now rocking a 450 ERA. That goes up to about a 627 away from home, and away from home, he is giving up about 6 walks per 9 innings, but we have seen the Colorado Rockies actually be outside the top 8 in terms of run creation when they have been at home, and you still do have a guy in Gore that's able to give you 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so the swing and miss stuff is clearly there. For the Rockies, they've been able to get a lot of production out of Hunter Goodman along with Mickey Moniak from a power perspective. Both of these guys, 10 plus home runs thus far this season, and Moniak is up to about a 350 on base. Obviously, with the Rockies, they're always so much better with their on-base percentage at home rather than away from home, but we've seen Eduardo Julian really start to toil pull. He, Willie Castro, Kyle Karros, these are all guys hitting a 240 or lower, all below a 320 on base, aside from Karros. Karros has actually been able to draw some walks here recently, but you've been having a little bit of an up and down season with TJ Romfield. He's been a little bit shaky here recently, still hitting about a 275. Trey Johnson, he's at about a 320, and Rockies bullpen, I actually think, is a little bit better than advertised, with the fact that Antonio Senzatella is now giving you a sub-2 ERA, but Victor Vodnik has been all sorts of terrible, over a 6 ERA. You've got Juan Mejia, who's now rocking about a 4 ERA. Did like the pickup of Brandon Bernardino during the offseason. He's been pretty solid. Seth Alverson in a small sample size has been good, but Jimmy Erga, who was so good for this bullpen last year, he's now on the injury list. And for the Rangers, they entered in the day on Sunday, pretty much dead last in the league in terms of run creation at home with 3 runs per game. I think that the Red Sox might be a little bit lower, but that said, they've been averaging more like 4.1 runs per game away from home. Jake Berger just has not been able to give you a ton with regards to hitting for average, but he's been able to give you 8 home runs, so that's a good thing. They're dealing with the injury to Corey Seager, but he really wasn't doing anything for his lineup either. And you've got a few guys who are able to move line. You've got, don't call his name, Alejandro Azuna giving you over 4 on base. Brandon Nimmo's hitting about a 270. Ezekiel Duran also hitting a 270. The catcher spot has been an issue, and you just need to get more Justin Foscue in general. And for the Rangers, this team is number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA, albeit they've got a few injuries. Robert Garcia, Chris Martin being on the injury list have hurt this team, but Tyler Alexander, the Jacobson, Jacob Latz, Jacob Junis, they've all been able to give you sub 325 ERA. Cole Winn last year was posting up a sub 2 ERA. That's above a 5. He's a native of Colorado, so he should be able to pitch here, and I do think that there's some positivity there. And then for Jose Quintana, while he's got a pretty good ERA at a 397, 557 field independent, he's giving up as many walks as strikeouts, 4.2 per 9 innings. He's been prone in the past to giving up a lot of hard contact, so do think that the Rangers connect here on offense. Somebody told 10.8. I like the over, and I'm willing to lay up to minus 113 on that Rangers online, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to our guy Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets, for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you hear your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have 1 to 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day, give you guys picks and analysis on every single game, every single day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.